guys, Robot1 here, and welcome to the future of Yu-Gi-Oh! Along with Charmander in the background, as always. And in today's future of Yu-Gi-Oh! We're going to be taking a look at the new Pendulum archetype coming out into the game. And as everybody on this channel should know, I am an avid Pendulum lover, playing Pendulum decks all the way back into the beginning of my first Pendulum deck, which was Gaga Pendulums, all the way to today where I'm playing stuff like Pendulum Magicians, Metal Foes, Endymion, all these different Pendulum styles, and honestly, I can't wait to read these. I really love the Pendulum archetype. I always have really loved the Pendulum archetype, and I really want to see this Pendulum archetype be good, because I've already read the first card that was released yesterday, and I wanted to hold back on making a video on it, because I'm the type of person who, if there's not all the cards there, there's not really much a point on making a video on it. So I didn't want to make a card on the big boss monster until we had the rest of the support, and luckily enough, Konami the day right after chose, oh, we're going to release the next bit of support. So let's go ahead and look at all of it, because I really want to see this Pendulum archetype be good. I already know what the first big boss monster does, as I said, so hopefully this is going to be a good card, and we won't see another bad Pendulum archetype basically being introduced into the game, especially seeing as all the other decks in this set are pretty much mediocre. I'm also hoping that this is the big meta contending set coming out with the big Pendulum deck that's going to, bring Pendulum back and put them back on the map. Because right now, yes, they're decent, yes, they're good, but they're not the best. So let's go ahead and look at this archetype. It's called the Doremichord. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm pretty sure it is, but hey, I could be illiterate like hell right now and say no, but Doremichord is how I feel like that is how that's pronounced. So let's go ahead and see what the Doremichords do. So starting off with their burst monster, Kulia, which is a Wind Fairy Pendulum Effect monster with a scale 1, and it is a level 8, 2700 attack and 2500 defense. Its Pendulum Effect is, when you Pendulum summon a Doremichord Pendulum monster, your opponent cannot activate monster effects or spell and trap cards. So pretty much what this is saying is your opponent can't activate any sort of effect when you're going to summon. So your opponent can't activate cards like Solemn Warning, Solemn Judgment, can't activate monster effects that would negate the summon, can't activate anything that would happen to the interruption of a Pendulum summon, because they're unable to do it to the Pendulum summon. So they can't even activate cards like TT as well, which is really good. Monster effect, though, is first effect, you can special summon this card from your hand by attributing 2 Pendulum monsters. Reason why this effect is here, guys, and it's very obvious, is because this is a level 8, and in Pendulum decks, there aren't normally more than a scale 8 in a Pendulum deck. So this card being a level 8 is basically having an effect that will give it the ability to summon itself from the hand outside of Pendulum summoning, seeing as you're probably never Pendulum summoning this card to begin with. So right off the bat, 2 tributes for Pendulum monsters. Personally, I don't like the effect that you have to tribute 2 Pendulum monsters to special summon it. Honestly, I would rather tribute 1, but hey, that's how Konami designed the card. Second effect though, you can target 1 face-up card your opponent controls, negate its effects until the end of your opponent's turn. If you have an odd-numbered Pendulum scale in your Pendulum zone, you can target 2 cards instead. So, non-quick effect to be able to basically just negate 1 face-up monster majority of the time, unless you have an odd-numbered Pendulum scale. My personal opinions on this kind of effect in the deck is why? Like, honestly, with today's Pendulum monsters, being like Mighty Master of Magic, Jackal King, all these things that do a lot of negates and have the ability to just gain a lot of destruction and all of that as well, having the ability to just negate 2 face-up cards by targeting isn't the best. And the only thing that would actually have changed on this card, guys, if I was to make it myself, was get rid of the target. Honestly, just make it so negate 1 face-up card on the board, because the problem right now in the game is that there are a lot of things in the game that say, oh, I can't be targeted. So pretty much I was hoping that would be kind of part of this card's effect, but no, it does target, and if it did have that, it would have a way to counteract Dragoons, which is a really big issue for a lot of different decks right now as well. So, just something I wanted to mention, I feel like the target in this effect is the problem, especially seeing as the power of all these other Pendulum monsters in the game. It's like Mighty Master of Magic that has like a paragraph of text, but nonetheless, this card still has a pretty decent effect, and its third effect, though, is when the effect of a monster on the field with attack less than or equal to times 300 the highest Pendulum scale in your Pendulum zone is activated, quick effect, you can destroy that monster, sorry. Now, my issue with this effect, and this is my big issue, because this is supposed to be the big boss monster of this archetype, and that is, this can only destroy something 9 times out of 10 with 2400 attack points or less. Now, obviously, your opponent normal summons a monster, they activate that monster effect, you kill that monster, that's okay, I'm fine with that. But having the effect that literally just says, oh, I kill something when they activate a monster effect as long as its attack points is less than 2400, it's not good. And that is the big thing about me and this boss monster right now. It doesn't have anything it requires to be a really good card, and that's my big issue. This is my issue with the boss monster. And going on to the little, maybe more Pendulum Zone monsters, I'm really hoping to see that they really complement this card a lot and they make this card a lot better. Otherwise, I don't even think this card will see play in its actual archetype, because, well, looking at it, it doesn't do enough. Like, its best part is the Pendulum scale to stop your opponent from activating monster effects or spelling traps when you Pendulum summon, and that's about it. There's no other reason why I would play this card right now. But honestly, guys, let's go ahead and on to the actual support though, because yes, this is the boss monster. Yes, it is kind of weak compared to a lot of other Pendulum archetypes and Pendulum cards, but I still want to see what this deck is capable of. So let's go ahead and go in to the actual new support that was released today and talk about it. So I have only read one card of this set because I was interrupted when I was originally making this video, and when you're interrupted, you got a restart at times. So yeah, I know the first card that was released, and that is it. So we'll go through the rest of the cards and we'll see what they do. So, first monster is Doremichord Qt, which is a level 1 Earth Fairy Pendulum effect monster. 100 attack, 400 defense, Pendulum scale is 8, and its Pendulum effect is your Doremichord Pendulum monsters Pendulum summon cannot be negated. So pretty much this is a slightly different effect compared to this one, obviously, where it says your opponent cannot activate monster effects or activate spell and trap cards. But the only difference here is your opponent can still activate cards like Torrential Tribute, Bottomless Trap Hole, anything that would be able to respond to the summon of a card. They just can't activate cards like Solemn Warning, Solemn Judgment, and Solemn Strike. They can't negate the summon. But that's all this pretty much prevents. So that's the only reason right now where I'm kind of like, okay, maybe it's worth playing the big scale, but I'm still not a big fan of it. But anyway, monster effect of this though is, if this card is normal or special summoned, you can add one Doremichord Pendulum monster from your deck to your hand, except Doremichord Qt. Reason why this is a level 1, because if it's normal or special summoned, pretty much the reason why this card is level 1 is to prevent you from being able to constantly Pendulum summon this back and constantly get its effects. And honestly, I'm fine with that. You know why? This is level 1. We have Zero Gate in the game, so I could just go ahead and summon Darkworm, search Zero Gate, activate Zero Gate, and instantly be like, Pendulum summon this back, activate its effect again. And I think that's pretty good. You know why? Because it's a free summon. And I'm fine because I get a free Pendulum scale and I can do it multiple times per turn, I can do it multiple times in a duel. Being a level 1 means nothing in a Pendulum deck nowadays because of Zero Gate, so thanks Konami, thanks for giving us a level 1 searcher. I love it. I love it. And also the good thing about this card as well, which is another kind of side thing that I just want to mention, it's a level 1. It can make stuff like Link Karibo giving us a down pointing arrow right off the bat, and it can instantly be tributed because we can just keep looping the Link Karibo by tributing this card, summoning back the Link Karibo, and that's just really nice to me. So we always have a way to have basically an attack prevention, which is nice in this deck as well. So just something a little cheeky there, and I really liked. But second effect of this card though, if you have an even numbered Pendulum scale in your Pendulum zone, Doremichord Pendulum monsters you control gain 100 attack / Pendulum scale total you control. Now, this effect to me is like, this is pretty good. And the reason behind that is because this is basically a float effect that says if you have a scale 4 and you have a scale 8, you go ahead and gain an additional 1200 attack points. That's always a nice thing. It always means that this monster is going to have slightly more attack points than it already has, which is obviously 100, which isn't very big, but nonetheless, having more attack points is always nice, so it's nice to see that Konami have made this kind of thing as well, just to give us something of a little bit of a boost, you know what I mean? So that's kind of nice being on the searcher. But going on to the next one now, one that I haven't read because I was interrupted, and that is Dreamair. I know the name, I know the attack points, but I don't know the effect. So, what is Dreamair? So it's a level 2 Wind Fairy Pendulum effect, 600 attack, 400 defense points. Nice. And its pendulum effect is your Doremichord Pendulum monsters Pendulum Summon cannot be negated. Wait, so are they all going to have that then? Interesting. I didn't think we would be seeing another one with the same effect. And honestly, I'm kind of hoping they don't all have the same pendulum effect, because the thing about pendulum monsters is they can do various things in the pendulum scale, and if they all do the same thing in the pendulum scale, I'm not going to be too happy about that. Like, I guess it's really good, don't get me wrong. It's good because it says, oh, my pendulum summon can basically never be negated, and that's one of the things we're most scared of in a pendulum deck, being able to pendulum summon, and then, oh, they activate a solemn strike or a solemn warning and we just lose the whole summon. But I don't want to just look at the same effects. Like, that's not how pendulum works for me. But hey, you never know, it could only be these two. It could only be these two. We'll continue on. So, Doremichord monsters, pendulum summon cannot be negated. Its monster effect is, though, first effect, if there is a Doremichord card in your pendulum zone, you can special summon this card from your hand. Oh, 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 if we ever get Electromite back, boys, that's a free summon in Pendulum. I'm on board with that. Okay, what's its second effect? If you have an odd-numbered Pendulum scale in your Pendulum zone, and a Doremichord Pendulum monster card you control would be destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can destroy this card instead of one of that cards. Wait. You can destroy this card instead of one of that card. Well, I'm basically guessing this means you can destroy this card instead. Just destroy this and protect it. That is obviously a translation thing. One of that cards to protect that one card. But this is interesting. Having built protection effect is really, really nice. It gives you the effect to basically say, oh, yeah, you tried to destroy me, but I'm just going to kill myself instead so that thing survives. And being able to use that on such things like a pendulum scale or like things along those lines is really nice. And that's good. I like this. I like that effect a lot. Just having inbuilt protection is nice. Like, I don't like how you have to have an odd number pendulum scale, but I'm starting to see a pattern here, like, oh, scales, odd number scales need odd number pendulum scales. Even number pendulum scales need even number pendulum scales to activate these additional effects. And honestly, I'm kind of fine with that, because the majority of the time you're always going to have like an even number scale and you're always going to have an odd number scale. So I'm absolutely fine. That's good by me. But anyway, let's continue on. So we have our lovely Mikora, Doremichord Elite. So she's the elite of the group, and she is also the, that's not the violin, that's the bass? No, that's not the bass. I can't remember what that is. I can't remember what that instrument's called, it's been a while. But it is a level 3 Water Fairy Pendulum effect, 1100 attack, 400 defense, scale 6, and now I'm seeing another pattern. You know what? Every time we go up a level, it goes down a scale. So I'm pretty much going to guess that the level 7 is going to be a scale 2 at this point. Interesting. And I didn't want to click on the image, but that's still really nice to look up. And its pendulum effect is, oh, okay, the pendulum effect is the same. Its pendulum summon can't be negated. So I'm starting to see the pattern, and I'm not liking it. But its monster effects, on the other hand, if this card is normal special summoned, you can target one spell and trap card your opponent controls, return it to the hand. I don't like that. I want it to destroy. But I'm fine with it because it gets rid of stuff, so okay, fair enough. Pendulum summon, get rid of opponent's back row. Your pendulum scale says your opponent can't activate in response to the summon. This activates on the summon because of this card right here, so understandable. Continuing on. I'm not liking it though. Second effect is, if you have an even number pendulum scale in your pendulum zone, you can take no battle damage from battles involving Doremichord pendulum monsters you control. So, no battle damage. Pretty nice, as long as you got an even number. I like that. And, ooh, this one's nice. She's playing the accordion as well. Interesting. So she is called Fancy, Fancia, and she is a level 4 Fire Pendulum Effect monster, 600 attack, 400 defense, scale 5, with the same pendulum effect as the rest of them. Okay, what's her monster effect though? During your main phase, you can take one Doremichord Pendulum monster from your deck, except Fancia, and place it face up in the extra deck. That's really good. That's really, really good, because being able to just put cards in the extra deck from your main deck for Pendulum decks is nice. We've seen it with Electromite being really, really strong, and I see it being really, really strong with this. Nice, nice, nice. We've got a way to search. We've got a way to put stuff in the extra deck. I'm really happy with this so far. A second effect though is if you have an odd number pendulum scale in your pendulum zone and Doremichord pendulum monsters you control would be destroyed by battle, you can destroy this card instead. Alright, so this is the protection from battle, and we've got protection from destruction. Pretty good. I like that we have protection from both avenues of destruction, so that's really, really nice too. Plus, it's a good card in general. So now we go on to a higher level monster with a lower level scale, as I thought so. And it's a level 5, so pendulum effect's gonna be hopefully good. It changed? Nope. Wait, it has changed. When you pendulum summon a Doremichord pendulum monster, your opponent cannot activate monster effects or spell and trap cards. Okay, here's the pattern. Every pendulum monster from 8 to 5 is literally just, oh, you can't negate the summon. Everyone from 4 to 1 is you can't activate anything to the summon. Okay, understandable. Let's continue. And its monster effect is, first effect, if this card is normal or special summoned, you can add 1 Doremichord spell/trap from your deck to your hand. So this is the spell and trap searcher. It being a level 5 is understandable, I'd say, because if the level 1 is a monster searcher, I would say the level 5 being a spell and trap searcher is understandable. It's going to be a lot harder to use because of it's that, but obviously you're going to be pendulum summoning it, so it's not that big a deal, and I'll probably see it as a one-off to go ahead and use with this here to go ahead and just place it in the extra deck and then pendulum summon it back. So right off the bat, understandable. And its scale effect is, it's an even effect again, is if you have an even number pendulum scale in your pendulum zone and your Doremichord pendulum monster attacks, your opponent cannot activate monster effects until the end of this turn, until the end of the damage step. Okay, so good thing about this effect is it makes every Doremichord pendulum monster enormides. I like that. That's good just in general. I don't need to go too deep into that because it's just an attack and your opponent can't activate anything. Now let's see. This is a Fire Fairy Pendulum Effect monster, Angela, with 2300 attack, 1400 defense, scale 3, level 6, and its pendulum effect is the same as the high scaler, low scalers, so I'm not going to read it. Monster effect though is, first effect, during your main phase, you contribute 1 Doremichord Pendulum monster, and if you do, special summon 1 Doremichord Pendulum monster with a pendulum scale that is 2 or higher or lower than that tributed pendulum monster from your deck. Wait, so you contribute 1 Doremichord Pendulum monster, special summon a Doremichord Pendulum monster that is either, if you tribute it to 5, you can either summon a Doremichord Pendulum monster as a level scale 7 or a scale 3 from your main deck. Okay, but you can't summon Angela because of she's the scale 3. Intriguing. Interesting. I don't know how to think about that, because it's a free summon from the deck and you do have to tribute another monster, but in a pendulum deck that could be abused very, very easily. So interesting. I'm seeing these high scales as a one-off that could be really good, and I'm kind of liking that. I really am. And you're gonna have to play more than one though because they are low scales, so kind of hating that, but it's really nice so far. And its second effect is though, if you have an odd numbered pendulum scale in your pendulum zone, your Doremichord pendulum monsters attacks, your opponent can activate spell or trap cards or effects until the end of the damage step. So this one, opponent can't activate monster effects until the end of the damage step, but this one, your opponent cannot activate spell or trap cards until the end of the damage step. Okay, so this is, now it's just full on Armides, which is really nice. Let's go on to the next one though, which is Butia, level 7, Fairy Pendulum Effect monster. Now I'm assuming this is the last one because this is the scale set 2, level 7, and this is a 2500 attack monster with 2400 defense, scale 2, Pendulum Effect. When you pendulum summon a Doremichord Pendulum monster, your opponent cannot activate monster effects or spell and trap cards, just like every other pendulum scale for the high levels. Okay, what is its actual monster effect though? Quick effect. You can target 1 effect monster your opponent controls. During this turn, if that card would leave the field, banish it. If you have an even number pendulum scale in your pendulum zone, you can target 1 face-up spell and trap card your opponent controls instead. That effect's irrelevant to me. Because it's if it would leave the field. So what's the point? I get that it's a quick effect, so you could technically just go ahead and target like anything your opponent controls pretty much and be like, oh, if you link that away, if you use it, if you want to send it to the graveyard, it's not going to be banished. But to me that just isn't good. I guess you could, like, the best scenario I could see this happening is target an Alistair, and then the Alistair would be pretty much irrelevant now because it would be banished. So that's the best scenario I could see with this card, but you know, it's just not that good to me. I don't really like it. But its second effect is, once per turn, at the start of the damage step, when this card battles a monster with an attack that is equal to or higher than the lowest pendulum scale in your pendulum zone, times 300, you can destroy that monster. So that's pretty decent. It gets around a lot of boss monsters. You have to waste your battle phase, but that's pretty much it. And it's only when this card battles as well, so it doesn't give the everyone effect that a lot of these other cards have been doing. So I guess that's pretty good too. But honestly, looking at the monsters, I'm less inclined to play everything. I'm not really looking to play these two personally because I don't feel like they're good enough. And I would rather play a low scales like 0 scale, so it can go ahead and just, you know, let me pendulum summon everything. But it's not bad. They all have their own unique effects, and we've already read this card, so I don't really need to read it again, because we already know what this does. It summons itself, it negates things, and it just kills monsters. That's all it does. But let's go ahead and go into the spells and see what they do. So, Doremichord Scale is a normal spell card, and you can only activate one of it per turn. Apply one of these effects in sequence according to the number of Doremichord Pendulum cards you control with different names. If you control 3 or more, I'm already not wanting to play this card for the pure fact that you have to control at least 3 or more to activate it, but hey, let's see what it does. 3 or more, return 1 card from your Pendulum Zone to the hand, and if you do, place 1 Doremichord Pendulum monster from your face-up extra deck to your Pendulum Zone. I don't like that, but I see why it's good. 5 or more, special summon 1 Doremichord Pendulum monster from your hand. Okay. Interesting. 7 or more? How are you controlling 7 or more Doremichords? Apply these effects in sequence according to the number of Doremichord Pendulum Monsters cards. Oh! Including... Wait, Pendulum Monster cards you control with different names. According to the number of Doremichord Pendulum Monster cards you control. You're never activating this effect. That has to be a translation issue. That has to be, because otherwise you're unable to actually activate the 7 clause. And if you can't activate the 7 clause, what's the point? Unless it does count the Pendulum cards in your Pendulum Zone. But that shouldn't count because you're never going to have 7 Doremichord Pendulum monsters in the Pendulum Zone. Like, according to the Doremichord you control... Yeah, I don't know, that might be a translation issue. But if you do control 7 or more Doremichord Pendulum monsters, or Pendulum cards, because I'm assuming that's a translation where it's meant to say Pendulum cards, destroy all face-up cards your opponent controls. So, yeah, if your opponent if you control 7 face-up Doremichord cards, I'm assuming, because if that's not a translation issue, I don't know how you're ever resolving that effect, because you're never being able to have 7 Pendulum monsters on the board, then you can just destroy the whole board, all your opponent's cards, which is pretty cool. Being able to just destroy all your opponent's cards, and yeah, I don't see an issue with that. But this card... 1, unless there's a translation issue, you're never resolving that effect. So, right off the bat, there has to be a translation issue. And 2, destroying all cards your opponent controls if you control 7 is going to be very unlikely, because, as we know, we're in Master Rule 5, so you're not able to Pendulum Summon 5 from the extra deck. So, not the likeliest thing to happen. But let's continue on. So, we've got a field spell. Okay, Doremichord Harmonia, which is a field spell, and its first effect is select and activate one of these effects. You can only select these effects of Doremichord Harmonia once per turn each. Add 1 Doremichord Pendulum monster from your face-up extra deck to your hand. Okay, you can activate it once per turn, so that's alright. Second effect, have 1 Doremichord card in your Pendulum Zone, gain Pendulum scales equal to its level until the end of this turn. You know what? I'm okay with that. I'm absolutely okay with that. And third effect, if you have 3 or more Doremichord Pendulum monster cards in your different names that have an odd number Pendulum scale, or that have an even number Pendulum scale, you can destroy 1 card your opponent controls. Okay, I like this card, and I'm really hoping it's got a translation issue there as well, because it says Pendulum monster cards again. But if it's just Pendulum cards, I'm happy, because that can still resolve. But even still, this card is going to resolve. So what this basically does is, if you control 3 or more Doremichord Pendulum monster cards with different names that have an odd or even scale, then you can just go ahead and destroy one card on the board. That is really nice. Just killing opponents' cards on the board is cool, and I'm happy to know that I can just kill my opponent's stuff. That's really good, being able to just destroy opponents' cards for free, and it's one card, so you just get to kill whatever the hell you want. So that's really, really good. And now we're going on to trap cards, and trap cards in a Pendulum deck don't normally work unless it's like Time Pendulum Graph, so let's see what this does. So this is Doremichord Musica, and it is a normal trap card. First of all, you can only activate one card with this card's name per turn, and its first effect is select one of these effects to activate based on the Pendulum scale or Doremichord Pendulum monster cards you control. If you control an odd number, I'm assuming, yeah, it's going by the scale. Odd number, special one Doremichord Pendulum monster with an odd number Pendulum scale from your face-up extra deck. Problem with that, you can only summon it to the extra monster zone. I'm not happy with that. Second effect though, even number Pendulum scale, special summon one Doremichord Pendulum monster with an even number from your extra deck. Again, has to go to the extra monster zone. Not too happy with that. Third effect, both odd and even number, target one card your opponent controls, destroy it. So it seems like a lot of these cards have abilities that destroy depending on what you have in the Doremichord deck. So that's kind of interesting to know, because seeing as if you have 7 or more here, you get to go ahead and just destroy the whole board. And I'm really hoping that just means Pendulum, Doremichord Pendulum cards, because that is never happening. I will say that to the end of time. Like, you're never resolving this card. This card's 7 effect, like, it literally says, apply these effects in sequence according to the number of Doremichord Pendulum monster cards you control with different names. It has to count the Pendulum scales, otherwise you're never resolving that 7 effect. And I'll continue saying that until the end of this video. So, both, you can destroy one card there, and then we have a counter trap. Okay, I'm interested. Doremichord Formal. Counter trap, you can only activate one of this card's name per turn. First effect, when your opponent activates a monster effect or a spell trap effect and you control a Doremichord card in your Pendulum zone, shuffle one Pendulum monster from your face-up extra deck into the deck and apply these effects. Okay, I'm gonna say this right off the bat. This is starting to look like an Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon in the form of a Pendulum, in the form of a counter trap, and I'm hoping that means it's good. But depending on what these effects are, can really change the playing field. So let's see what it does. So Pendulum monsters you control are unaffected by your opponent, by the opponent's card effect, by that opponent's effect. So right off the bat, all your Pendulum cards are unaffected. Second, cards in your Pendulum zones cannot be destroyed by that opponent's effect. Okay. Cards in your Pendulum zone cannot be banished by that opponent's card effect. So wait. All this doesn't negate, this doesn't destroy, this just says, oh, my Pendulum stuff is not leaving the board. My Pendulum stuff is going to be unaffected. Okay. Like, it's not bad. It's not bad, but shuffling a Pendulum monster back into the main deck to be able to use this, to me, seems underwhelming. Because yes, I'm protecting my cards. Yes, it's giving me the ability to keep my cards alive. But at the same time, I would rather just Vortex, man. Like, it doesn't stop the card. It doesn't destroy the card. It doesn't prevent the card's activation. It just says my cards can't be affected, they can't be destroyed, and they can't be banished. And to be fair, that is good, that is a good effect, but it's not something I would play. And that's my honest opinion. But hey, the last thing we're looking at seems to be Wavering Eyes. Compared to all of this, I'm thinking Doremichord is not a Pendulum deck that I'm too happy with. And to be honest, it does have a lot of nice cards. It does have a lot of really good cards, and I could see myself using it as an engine. I could see myself using it as an engine in other Pendulum decks, because you've got stuff like Yugioh here, which says I get to add any Doremichord Pendulum monster from my deck to my hand. You've got stuff like this, which is just a free special summon when you can have a Doremichord in the Pendulum zone and protects your stuff. You've got Stuff like this that literally just says I get to return spell and trap cards to the hand, and all of them have pendulum scale effects. Like even this is Electromite. It's basically Electromite, which is really, really nice. And then you've got these, which search spell and trap cards. This one special summons from the deck, which is really cool. You've got this one, like these two, which I'm just like, I don't want to play, but I would have to play them because scale 1 and scale 2 is like the most important scale in the game, but I'll probably play Zero Gate instead because I'm that type of person. And then you've got like the spell cards like this, which just like, how are you ever resolving this? Like legit, unless that is a translation error, and that, like, apply these effects in sequence according to the number of Doremichord Pendulum monsters cards you control with different names. Pendulum scales are pendulum spells. So unless this is a translation error where it means pendulum cards, you are never using the 7 or more, because you cannot ever have more than 6 pendulum monsters on the field at any given time. You can't extra link into the 7th extra monster to the 2nd extra monster zone, so you can have a 7th one. And that just seems impossible to me. So this has to be a translation error where it's saying that, and I'm hoping it is, but otherwise you'll never be able to resolve that 7 or more effect. Or maybe, no, it's 7 on the card, so it has to be 7. And also you got like really cool field spell right here, which just says I get to return stuff from my extra to my hand. And then you've got this card, which, in all honesty, is decent. Like, you summon to extra monster zones, but majority of the time you're going to be summoning to the to the extra monster zone. So linked zones, extra monster zones, and stuff like that. Being able to destroy a card is also kind of nice, but don't think it's the best thing as it's a normal trap card. And then you've got this really weird counter trap, which I'm just not too happy with. But looking at this deck, and now looking at the entire set as a whole, I'm personally like, yes, these decks are interesting. Yes, these decks are cool. Yes, this Pendulum deck has really cool things that I'll use in an engine. But do I think it's a good standalone deck? No. No, this isn't a good standalone Pendulum deck. Yes, it's got a lot of good cards in it. It's got searches, it's got special summon from deck, it's got searching spell and trap cards. But in all honesty, being a Pendulum deck that just has the effect that says, oh, I can search spell and trap cards, I can search monster cards, I can special summon from the deck. The problem with that is the monsters that you're searching, the cards that you're searching aren't big boosters. They don't do a lot. Like, you've got, as I said before, you've got this card here. You can't even use its 7 effect unless that's a translation issue. And I'm really hoping, and I will continue saying this, it needs to be a translation issue, or you're never being able to use the 7 effect, because it has to be monsters you control. You can't even count your opponents. And sure, you can special summon a Doremichord monster from your hand, but that's not really that great. And then you've got this that just allows you to replace scales. Like, I'm never going to use this card in the deck. This card is not even a card that I would consider in the deck. But at the same time, it's like, it could be a decent deck. And I feel like this deck is really cool. It has a lot of interesting things. It's really cool to look at. It has really nice artwork. But in my personal opinion, this Pendulum deck, it's not good on its own. And from the look of every other Pendulum deck that we've ever had in the game, majority of them have just been really good standalone decks. But looking at this, it's the first one that I can say, no, it's not a good standalone Pendulum deck, and I really, really am not happy with that. But hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's some busted combo that you could do out there. Maybe that you can mix it with one random Pendulum card out there. But on its own, I don't see it being that great of a deck. It's got one card that I'm still thinking, why is this here? Is this a translation issue? I really hope it is. But yeah, guys. But anyway, this is the video, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Tell me your thoughts on the Doremichord archetype in the comment section below. As I said, I think it's a cool deck. I think it's got a lot of support that you could use maybe in other Pendulum decks. But on its own, I don't really see it being a really amazing deck. But hey, tell me what your thoughts are in the comment section below about it. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Tell me your thoughts on the Doremichord archetype. And I'll be seeing you guys in the next one. Rob1, signing out. Don't forget to check out all my links as well in the description. My Discord, Instagram, and Twitch. Later all.